what I thought we'd do today is just a little talk, maybe a discussion, maybe some reflections that come up if you want, and then we'll finish with a meditation practice. Now, we're heading towards the end of this week. On Friday, I'm going up to the central UK, and we've got a Zen session retreat. So session retreat is a traditional silent retreat, Zen kind of thing. We're doing 5 days. And as part of the retreat, my main teacher asked if I would give one of the talks. So the session is going to be about celebrating Zen Master Dogen's 800th anniversary of his awakening, of his kind of enlightenment. So Zen Master Dogen was kind of like one of the most central teachers of the school of Zen, which is called Soto School of Zen. And we come from more a Rinzai leaning branch. So there's two main schools of Zen, the Soto and the Rinzai lineage, you could suppose, as saying, like passing down from teacher to teacher. So, we probably come mostly from the Rinzai side. It's not to say that the Soto side and people are not worth celebrating. So Zen Master Dogen, one of the very greatest Zen masters that ever lived. And his student, well, actually 2 generations later. So he had a student, his name was Koen Ejo. And then he had a student whose name was Keizan Jokin. And Keizan also was one of the most influential and important teachers in the Soto lineage. Dogen, he was alive around 1200, and he was a Japanese teacher. He went to China to study with Chinese Zen teachers, and then came back to Japan. So that's Dogen. And then a couple of generations later came Zen Master Keizan. He was a Japanese Zen master. And was born in 1268. And if you could see as Dogen planting the roots of Soto Zen, bringing it from China to Japan, Keizan was like cultivating the plant, growing the branches so that they kind of grew nice and big. So Dogen and Keizan together formed the basis, the foundation of Soto Zen in Japan. It had already been going in that form. It was called something different in China, but as it came to Japan, that was the Japanese translation. So Keizan wrote all sorts of things. His writing, everything from the poetic to the very practical. And one of his most famous works was the Denkoroku. So Den means transmission in Japanese. Ko means light. And Roku means record. So it's the transmission of the light record, or the record of transmission of the light. Denkoroku, one of the most important texts in the Zen tradition. It's a collection of 53 stories documenting the moments of enlightenment of the lineage of teachers from Shakyamuni Buddha, so Siddhartha Gautama, who became Shakyamuni Buddha back at the beginning, through the great ancestors of Zen in India and China, and then moving into Japan. So 53 teachers to students, going from India to Japan. And instead of being kind of historical record, you could probably argue that a good few of the stories, especially the early ones, probably don't have a huge amount of historical accuracy in them. It's certainly not a historical record. It's more like they're living stories that show how the light, this enlightenment, was transmitted, how it's passed down from teacher to student to create this kind of lineage. So it's one of the consequences, I suppose, of the culture that we inherit, that 53 enlightenment stories, they're all men. And it's a kind of... it's something missing, it's really something missing. From our perspective here in the 21st century, looking back, going, well, where are the women? Yes, there were women. There were definitely very enlightened women, but their stories have been kind of like, I don't know, downplayed or just kind of lost in the mists. And it's definitely something about the culture at the time and, yeah, the wrapping around it. So here we have the lineage. Now, Annette, you asked who's the 54th? Well, after Zen Master Keizan came his student, and then the student passing down. I'm not entirely sure I can remember the name of his student. I can't remember the rest of them. And my teacher, Zen Master Daizan, is 85th, I think 85th in the lineage. There's been quite a few teachers down to since Keizan was alive in about 1300. There's been a few more teachers down the line, so we're a bit further down, and we do have records of many of those teachers, but not quite, fundamental, I suppose, as this Denkoroku in our study. Keizan's intention was to show that enlightenment is not something which we gain for ourselves, but it is stepping into a shared light, a shared realization which is passed on. It's not like, I gain enlightenment. Actually, I'm just aligning myself with this lineage, stretching back to the Buddha and presumably before, really, to time immemorial. And Kit gave this teaching, the Denkoroku, as a series of talks. So they were transcribed. It's like when you read the Denkoroku, you can pretty much hear his voice in it. It's like sitting with him and hearing Keizan teaching. So the Denkoroku was written, 1300 in Japan, and then was transcribed. And most of the stories were taken from previous records. There was a famous one called the Denkoroku, which is, Den is a transmission, To in this means lamp, Roku, record. So the transmission of the lamp, which I suppose he was just like riffing off the name, and that was compiled around 1000 in the Common Era in China. And then there were a number of other texts which he kind of drew from, including the Hekigan Roku, which is a collection of koans we study in Zen, and a few others. So he kind of like took them, adapted them, reshaped them, and then added his own commentary and some verses. He composed some little poems to go with each one. And in our Zen tradition, we study each of these stories, each of these teachers down to the lineage, as koans in themselves. So a koan is like a point of focus for our meditation, to investigate, to kind of tune into, align with. Now, what I wanted to talk about today was case number 1 from the Denkoroku, which is Shakyamuni's awakening. Shakyamuni, the man, his name was Siddhartha Gautama. Siddhartha was his given name, Gautama was his family name, and he was part of the Shakya clan living in northern India. So there was a group of people all united under a kind of, I don't know, like a bigger, wider, it was a kind of, like a kingdom, I suppose, in northern India at the time. So the Shakya clan, Shakyamuni means like the person of the Shakya clan, and the Buddha, awakened one. So we're looking at Shakyamuni's awakening. So we pick up the story fairly, like, right in the middle of things. He'd spent 6 years, he'd grown up, he'd left the palace, and he'd spent 6 years as a pretty extreme ascetic, doing all sorts of very austere practices, and eventually got to the end of the line, and he sat under the Bodhi tree. He found a tree, he sat down, and meditated to the night, vowing not to move until he had attained awakening. And as dawn approaches, Shakyamuni, he looked up at the morning rising light and saw what he called the morning star, which we call Venus. So he saw the morning star, awakened, realized the way, and said, I, together with the great earth and sentient beings, simultaneously attain the way. This is our koan, or this is the central point of this story. Now, Keizan goes on in his commentary to emphasize that this awakening, this realization that Shakyamuni had, isn't something he got as a kind of individual. He wasn't like a hero, for example, just getting it for himself, bringing it to the world. Hey guys, I found this amazing thing. Aren't I amazing? What he awakened to was something which was already there. It was the fundamental, it is, I said, the fundamental nature of all things of reality. He woke up to what was already there. He opened his eyes and saw the nature of reality. And that nature is that all beings, me and you, all sentient beings in the great earth, are part of one flow, one wholeness. That idea of separation, of individual distinction, is just an illusion. Feels true, and to some extent, on some level, definitely is true, but on a more fundamental level, there is kind of like a togetherness, a wholeness, a flow of all things. So he didn't, when he woke up and realized the truth, he didn't create the Dharma, the teaching. He revealed it, or he found it. And then what was very incredible about the Buddha was his ability to be able to take that realization, his understanding, and teach it in such a way which was very approachable, very accessible to other people. That's what made him such a great teacher. So this is the Denkoroku, the transmission of the light. It's not a transmission of doctrine, of teaching, of words. It's a transmission of light. It's the transmission of this realization of our fundamental true nature. So we could unpack Shakyamuni's awakening in 3 layers. The human layer, the layer of realization, insight, and then the more cosmic dimension. So Annette, you're just saying here, the third eye. Yeah, I mean, so even writings about the Buddha talk about a light that shines out of the space between his eyebrows. And I think that idea, my sense is that idea of a kind of a special energetic insight or clear seeing that kind of originates somewhere here in the middle forehead, probably dates back way before the Buddha, into ancient times. People had this intuitive understanding that, yeah, you're right, and the kind of knowledge and insight is connected to this space, whether you call it the third eye or whatever it is, but this kind of energetic seeing, yeah, representing insight or clear seeing, yeah. But I think there's more to it than that. I think the third eye has one perspective, but the whole being together, including our central energy and belly energy, they can all add up to form this kind of great awakening. That's my view anyway, yeah. So we've got these 3 different layers of awakening. The human, the more kind of transcendental, if you like, and then the cosmic. So on a human level, Siddhartha Gautama was a man. You know, he lived at a certain period of time, he had a family, and he was searching for truth. He had his drive, his motivation. He practiced all sorts of things, all sorts of austerities. He almost died. He almost starved himself, actually. And then he basically realized none of this was working and sat down under a tree and thought, God, tried all these things. How about if I just sit here? And he says, he makes this vow, even if my flesh and blood were to dry up, leaving only skin and bones, I will not leave this place until I find a way out of suffering, to end suffering. It's a very strong vow. That vow came from himself. He tried all these things. I'm sitting here. I'm just going to keep going until I realize this, even if I die. And what he found really was to not fight it, to not escape it, but to just be present with it. And I think a vow that I will do this, even if it means I die, very powerful. I'm just going to stay with it. I'm going to stay with it, come what may. Buddhism, Zen, Dogen, all the rest of it was kind of like a result of this radical willingness to just face what is, to face this. So that I think we can be deeply thankful to Siddhartha Gautama, who became the Buddha, that individual who had the strong vow, the strong motivation. So then he sat, and over the period of one night, maybe it was a few nights, in our Zen tradition we see it as one night, but other traditions see it as being a series of nights, whatever it was, he realized the fundamental nature of all things, which is beyond an individual. He said, I, together with the great earth and sentient beings, realize the way. Now, he sat as an individual and realized, I'm not just a separate me here. When I see the truth, I see the flow of all things. Is it me who's waking up to this? Well, if I am not separate, that means that all things wake up to this. I, together with the whole great earth, all sentient beings, are together. We're all part of this flow. That's what the Buddha saw. This truth is here. And our practice, his practice, wasn't to create an enlightenment, wasn't to find something, but to see through the delusions that hide it. Our ego, our habits, our conditioning, they all act to kind of like block our view, to hide, to get us looking over here instead of over here. When our suffering, falls off or we let go to sufficiently, then we realize, we see through, and the light can shine out. The light includes everything, right? It's anger, confusion, pain, the computer, it's the wall, it's the ceiling, it's the wind, everything is part of this light. Nothing is outside. All dimensions of reality are part of this flowing, dancing change of life, this flow. All beings are Buddha. That's the foundation of Zen. That's what the Buddha realized. And he said, I, together with all sentient beings, realize the way. We are all waking up together. And then we have the cosmic layer. Now, the Buddha, in that moment, as the morning light was rising, looked up at the sky and saw the morning star. We know it's Venus. That's what we call the morning star. Venus is one of the brightest points of light in the sky. Venus is a planet halfway between us and the sun. And it's very bright because it's reflecting the light of the sun. This point of light represents the light of awakening. The light of awakening that's shining everywhere. If you trace it back to Venus, and the Venus is reflecting the light of the sun is shining its light across the whole solar system. In fact, actually, the entire universe is illuminated by the sun and by all the stars. So it's not just a kind of symbol here. It's not just, oh, it just happened he looked up and saw the morning star. There's something deeply meaningful about looking up and seeing something cosmic. You know, Venus is out there in space. It's part of our solar system. It's reflecting the light of our sun. The sun is shining throughout the whole universe. So when we come in, we step into this light of awakening, the light that's being transmitted down to this Denkoroku. We step into the non-separation of self and universe, the realization that we could go beyond, what the Buddha said. I together with the great earth and sentient beings. You could say I together with the entire universe and all of its beings are waking up. I suspect back in the day of the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, we have much of a conception that there was anything outside of the earth. They didn't know what the morning star was, for sure. But now we do. So we come to the essence of this koan, this story, right? Keizan said, is that Siddhartha Gautama attains the way with everyone else? Or is it that everyone else attain the way together with Siddhartha Gautama? Did the Buddha attain awakening first and then draw everyone in, teaching it and attracting other people? Or do we all, throughout time and space, realize it simultaneously? And then Keizan says, if you think that either, then that's not the way. If you think that Siddhartha Gautama and us are different or distinct, then there is the mistake. We step into this light that Siddhartha Gautama found that we can find. It's the same light. We become one with Shakyamuni Buddha the moment we realize this light. Keizan says, if you wish to intimately understand the principle of attaining the way, then you must simultaneously brush away Gautama and us, and quickly understand what this I means, the I of the universe. So this light in the Denkoroku, the transmission of the light, this is this awakening, what in Zen we call kensho, which means seeing our true nature. And often in Japanese writing, they use the word kommyo, which is maybe a similar word. It means literally luminous mind. So in Japanese, a kommyo, and in Tibetan Buddhism, they use two phrases, the mother clear light and the child clear light. The light of the mother would refer to like the Buddha nature, the continuous, beginningless and endless nature of the universe, this fundamental Buddha nature. And then the child light would be our relationship to it as, I don't know, like awaken. We're on the way, right? So sometimes we have little fleeting experiences of this luminosity, catching glimpses of this light, maybe awakenings, insights, and we have this mother-to-child relationship with it. But the Buddha was able to step into and become the mother light. That's his full enlightenment. Potentially, there's been a number of people throughout history that have been able to do that. From our point of view, we're in this child to mother relationship. We're just maybe a little bit reliant on it, or looking for it, or seeking it, or needing reassurance from the mother. So this is the light. This is the luminous mind. This is the mother and child. And a very famous teacher, Bodhidharma, which came before Dogen way back, he said, Zen is a special transmission outside the scriptures, a direct pointing to the human mind, a realization of Buddhahood. So Zen is not reliant on words and teachings and scriptures and philosophy and intellectualizing. Then it's got this transmission, this kind of mind-to-mind stepping into the place. So then it becomes our responsibility, our job, to uncover our own light, the light that's already here. We are already part of this Buddha nature. The Buddha didn't discover something, he realized something which was already there. So it's our responsibility to also do that. To receive, to shine with this light. And as we shine, we transmit this light. We can't help it. We shine with our own inner light. And that is us taking our place amongst this lineage of transmission of the light. It's like one candle burning. And then we have another candle where you light the other candle with the first candle. And then what gets transmitted? I don't know. Kind of like there's an energy that passes. Very similar. So just to finish, Keizan finishes this case with a verse. A single twig sprouts from the old plum tree. Thorns and brambles, as time goes by, encroach on it. It's a bit esoteric, right? A single twig sprouts from the old plum tree. The old plum tree is a symbol of awakening. A single twig would be the Buddha. Basically, one teacher sprouts from the place of awakening and creates Buddhism. And then we've got thorns and brambles, as time go by, encroach on it. So that's kind of like all of us trying to make sense of it all and add our own interpretation, like I'm doing right now, right? We're all like adding, in Zen, adding thorns and brambles. Like we don't need all these words. We just need to step into the light or let the light shine. That's it. That's it. And all I'm doing is just adding thorns and brambles. Apologies. If there's any, if anything resonates or any kind of thoughts or comments or questions around that, I'd be very, very interested to hear. Please drop them down in the chat. Let me know. Let us all know. We can all be part of this. Well, I would invite you to join me in a meditation practice where perhaps we could try that. Let's come into a comfortable posture. Maybe you're already there. Letting your eyes gently lower. You can let them close. In the spirit of the Soto Zen tradition, they'd like to practice with the eyes open, just cast down, looking downwards, eyes open. So perhaps we could explore that if you want, carrying the eyes open. Of course, if you find it a bit distracting, just let your eyes close. It's no worries. And allowing your body and mind to settle. Taking your attention inside. What is there to do here? What is our meditation? Well, Keizan was inviting us to make this story of the Buddha the focus point of our practice. To investigate what I, together with the great earth and all sentient beings, that means. To investigate what I means. Which basically boils down to the question, who am I? So we can ask that question, who am I? Am I really a separate, distinct individual, separate from all other things? On one level, it feels like that's true. It feels like I've got an edge, where the skin is. And I'm different from the cushion I'm sitting on and from the wall in front of me. I wonder if we could look at that a bit more closely. Do you finish at your skin? And is the physical body all there is to you? This is the investigation of the Buddha. He sat under the tree. I suffer because I want things to go this way. I want things to go that way. I want to go here. I want to go there. I wish it was like this. Why do I suffer? Was his question. And then he realized, oh, this I is not quite what I thought. And he looked up and he saw the morning star. He saw the light. The light that shines throughout the whole universe. I wonder what it would feel like to look at this light right now, inside. Not to look at this light, but to be the light. To shine as the light. Can we step into this lineage? A light that has been passed down across space, across time, that actually is beyond space and time, beginningless, endless, spaceless. In a way, there's actually nothing to do. We can just sit here shining, can you allow yourself to sit and shine? And acknowledge that nothing in your experience is outside of this light. Any kind of thought, feeling, sensation, perception, whatever you perceive to be good or bad, it's all part of this light. It's all you. It's all this. And the less we resist it, the more we can just become it. On one level, we're all these little candles dotted around the world, practicing together, joining in together right today, from different places. It's true, on some level, we're all live in different countries and joining in from different places, but on another level, it's just the universe shining, and we're just being part of it, acknowledging it. As we come to the end of this practice, swaying your body a little bit from side to side. Take a deeper breath if you like. Bringing the hands together in front of our chest, sending gratitude and thanks to Zen Master Keizan, to Zen Master Dogen, and all the teachers stretching back to Shakyamuni Buddha. We offer the merit of our practice today to all living beings. May they all be safe and well. May they be content, happy, and find liberation. So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. It's really great to have us all come together and meet like this.